when I moved to the UK, I became the other. There was, picking on my skin. I'm quite dark complexion. There was picking on my accent. I was called fresh off the boat.
From biomedical science labs to conquering continents, today's guest is rewriting what it means to be brave. She made history as the first Black woman to solo drive from London to Lagos. Yes, solo, across 16 different countries, deserts, borders, and even surviving a near-death experience in Côte d'Ivoire. When I sat down with Pelumi, I realized that the headlines don't even begin to tell the full story. I saw a storyteller, a risk-taker, and a proud Nigerian woman who is inspiring a whole new generation, especially Black women, to dream bigger and go further. I heard a woman with fire in her spirit and purpose in her steps. This is Pelumi Nubi, right here on the Open Up Podcast.
Open Up Podcast Season 3 Global Edition is brought to you by Credit Direct.
Hi! Hello, gorgeous queen.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you. You look very nice.
Thank you so much.
First of all, what are you doing for your skin? Because I'm looking at it like,
Making
girl.
blush.
Yeah, is this
drinking
Nigeria
water,
that did this to you?
Very much. Lagos is
Wow.
good for my skin.
It was good for your skin.
10 out
Love
of 10.
that. Welcome back.
Thank you.
That's kind of odd because usually it's
The other way around.
the other way around. But how have you been?
I've been good. I've been very well.
Hope your flight was good. Everything was great.
Perfect. No
All right.
complaints.
So we're here at Enish. So I'm like, I love this decor, by the way. What do you think about Enish?
It's
so
really
far?
lush.
Yeah.
Like I like when you walk in, you get this kind of very plump, very.
I'm like super
Ambience,
proud
yeah.
that I'm Nigerian and this is a Nigerian restaurant.
Exactly.
I'm like, oh yeah.
And we always have to look for our food wherever we go. That's something I miss whenever
Our
I
food is
travel.
the best.
10 out of 10, no complaint.
What's your best Nigerian food?
I always lean heavily towards amala. with
Amala.
gbegiri. I'm dead on.
Repping
Like
the
you-
Yoruba culture.
Always.
Talking about that, I thought of, let's start on light notes before
Okay.
we go deep into your story.
Let's do it.
So I have something fun to ask you.
Okay.
It's
So I want to mention a
2025
couple of
and your
words,
account balance
and you're
is
going to
not
tell me the
paying you.
first
Why?
word,
Use
experience,
Credit
story that
Direct.
comes to
With the
mind.
Credit
Okay,
Direct app,
okay.
you're
Don't
gonna
think too
earn
much.
Okay,
10
I
bob
get
per
it.
annum
All right, so
every
Sahara
single
Desert.
day. Now, rather than
Fighting
leave your
for my
money in
life.
the wallet, where you get
I love it.
and like 1 million
Peugeot
daily.
107.
Why not put your
Oh, my
money in the
baby
wallet and
Louis.
gain
Yeah.
every single
That was
day?
the
Did so
car.
well.
Even more, sending
Crossing
money in Credit
into
Direct is
Morocco.
free.
Drama.
I mean, send to anyone
Drama.
in your
Very dramatic.
account
I want
without
to
charge.
go into that
Credit
soon.
Direct said,
Côte
"We
d'Ivoire
see you.
accident.
Allow us to take care of
Damn,
you.
you're bringing out all of
I
Oh,
have
that.
yeah.
all my money to my
It
credit
was-
wallet.
it was
There is
intense. It was
one
intense
thing I've not
experience,
done
yeah.
in 2025. It is to leave
Lagos
my money
homecoming?
hiding. No way. You too. Head
A
over to
memory
Play
for a
Store or
lifetime.
App Store
Aw,
and download the Credit
love that.
Direct app.
Solo
to start
travel
using your
as a
wallet
Black
right
woman?
now and earn 10%
Highly
per
recommended.
annum.
Highly
Changes
recommend?
you. Yes.
One
Highly
more finger.
recommended.
Now, the
We're going to
bonus
dig
is
into that.
Open up
Yeah.
as a
Future
referral code
adventures?
when signing up.
Antarctica, final continent.
Girl,
Yes.
when?
Soon.
Soon.
Sooner
So
than
it's
you
going to be
think.
like London to the North Pole.
Why not?
Why
Anything
not?
is possible.
All right, so that was really fun, by
Thank
the way.
you.
I mean, I like what you did there. You like adventurous, hectic, drama. So we're just going to go right into that.
Okay.
But before I go into one of the major reasons that, or one of the major ways people know you, which is, of course, the London to Lagos trip, I wanted to go to know you, right? Because you're just telling me now North Pole. I'm like, geez, this girl doesn't stop.
I don't. I actually don't.
So I'm like, what was that like for you, like growing up? Has this always been, even when you were like, how far back can you remember?
Like my first adventure, I was 6 years old.
6.
I was 6. It was Easter. You know, Easter time, people go
Yeah.
to camp in their church. I was home and I saw the big bus leaving for church. This is like
Yeah.
a 2 hours drive from where we were. I didn't know this at time. Nobody told me the information. I remember just thinking, people are leaving. I don't want to be left behind. So I packed up my bag, broke my colo in the piggy bank,
Yeah.
stuffed whatever change I had in there, got in that bus, drove there to the campground, which
You
was
stop
like
it.
no, like
Somebody
on the bus. Someone drove me there.
I wanted
But I mean,
to
like I
scream.
got on the ride there. I wish I got that skill from 6.
It's 2025 and your account balance is not paying you. Why? Use Credit Direct. With the Credit Direct app, your wallet can earn you 10% per annum growing every single day. Now, rather than leave your money in one regular bank account where you get 3 credits and like 1 million debits, why not put your money in a wallet and gain a little extra every single day? Even more, sending money with Credit Direct is free. I mean, sent to anyone with a Nigerian bank account without charges. Credit Direct said, we see you. Allow us to take care of you, eh? I have moved all my money to my Credit Direct wallet. If there is one thing I have not done in 2025, it is to leave my money idle. No way. You too, head over to Play Store or App Store and download the Credit Direct app to start using your wallet right now and earn 10% per annum without lifting one little finger. Now, don't forget to use Open Up as your referral code when signing up. I know, you're welcome.
And then my dad saw me and he was so shocked. He was like, what are you doing here? Like, your mom was meant to bring you tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I always knew adventure was in me. I always was quite
Wow.
curious. I always wanted to. And I think I was just instilled that upbringing of you can do anything. I was never limited. There was always that freedom to just express myself, to do what I want. There was no, you have to do this thing.
Okay.
So that really was, I would say, defined my upbringing. There was just a lot of freedom around.
Really?
Yeah, which is very strange for
Very
like,
strange.
a
Thank
Nigerian.
you. Because I'm
Usually
like,
they are very strict and very.
my mom
and
is
they
like,
still,
where are you? Where are you?
yeah. Oh, they still have that disciplinary. I'm
Yeah.
not, but there was never a stuffling. I feel sometimes there's that fine line between we're disciplining a child and we're gonna just like overly control. This is super thin, but my parents just gave me that, you know, freedom to do things.
Would you describe them as fun parents?
They're fun in their way. Fun in terms of, you know, I think especially now being much older, now we can have banters and laughter. I think quite young, as my mom just was discipliner and like, you know, do this, do that. My dad was more diplomatic, you know, he's a professor.
So your daddy's girl?
I'm definitely daddy's girl. Like, you know, I have 2 older brothers. I'm the only girl, not spoiled, because I know that's what people say. But just that kind of like, you know, I got my way more than my brothers did. So I think that was the perks. I've been the baby of the house.
Oh, wow. That's so interesting. I wouldn't have guessed.
Yeah.
And this is me just being like a stereotypical person. Forgive me. But when I knew that your dad was in academics, I would have thought he was the disciplinarian.
Yeah.
Because like Nigerian teachers and lecturers, they don't play.
They don't play. They don't play. But I think he just had that soft spot, you know, his baby
Before
girl
you.
kind of exactly. So it's just
Definitely.
he's more of a verbal display. Like, you don't want my dad just talk to you. Like you just like just beat me. You don't want to even, you know. So there was just that kind of like, I will tell you what you've done wrong and that will be it. There's no constant.
I like what you
dominion.
just said.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is like a brief divert, right? You just talked about beating, right? So now you moved to UK at 10. And obviously, back home in Nigeria, if a child is misbehaving, I will whoop you. I will give you one knuckle.
Yes.
But over here, was that still able to happen? Or it's like, go to the naughty corner?
Yeah, there was more of that, to be honest. There
okay.
was more of a lighter compared to if you're doing a comparison.
Yeah.
I think you don't have to hit a child to discipline. That's my opinion. You know, but I know some people are like, what the heck? I don't think you need to get to that stage. I think there are ways to correct a child that doesn't involve abuse, you know. And
so you do think that's abuse? I'm just asking.
Yeah. That is. we survived it. Doesn't mean it's
Nigerian
right. You know?
parents are like, spare the rod and spoil the child.
And again, there's fine lines to these things. And again, because there's no guide of what parenthood is stuff. I'm not a parent myself, so you know, this could easily become, you know, learning in the process.
Definitely.
But I feel there's always all these extremes. You just don't want to land in the extreme. Definitely don't spoil the child. Definitely correct them when they do something wrong. But there's just ways to go about it that doesn't have to be physically beating up the child.
Wow,
you know?
so great. Yeah. But apart from, of course, parenting, do you remember like your first culture shock? I mean, this is you back home.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, what was that like?
That was when I moved to the UK. I don't know, there was just something about how UK was first described. It was almost like you're walking the streets of gold and it's like, you know, it's almost heaven in a way. That's how they describe it. I come here and it's cold, you know, just I've always experienced like sunshine. And now it's like so different. I became the other. There was, you know, picking on my skin. I'm quite that complexion. There was picking on my accent. I was called fresh off the boat, you know, really bullied. I was fresh off the boat, bleak.
Oh my God.
Anything that is quite degrading to how I looked and how I sounded and who I was. So that actually led to a major kind of like incline in terms of my self-belief or my self-worth. I think I grew up quite confident in who I was and the space I took. And then, you know, I recluded to the library where I was obsessed with books. I think, funny enough, I just wrote this on my Instagram post as a caption. And that's where I found travel books.
Oh.
So I was just kind of attracted with these colorful places, very much an escapism to my current reality. And I didn't realize that moment that seeds were being planted, and those places I once read about, you know, you're talking 2 decades ago, I have now seen them in person, in real life. You know, I've visited 89 countries. So
what?
it's constant,
Go away.
Yes,
89?
89. I'm trying to get to 100 before the end of the year. There's just kind of like there's so many beautiful places to see.
Yeah.
And why not? You can absolutely go and see them. So yeah, that's
I mean, but that is you talking now and looking back, making the lemonades out of all the lemons. But in that moment, how was that like for you? And you know, like Steve Jobs said, most of the things you find out in life are in hindsight. You kind of join the things together. I think in those moments, I was 10 years old that felt like she lost everything. I think when I describe it, I always call it an uprooting. You know, it's like I was uprooted. I didn't just relocate. It was like quite traumatic for me. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know why I'm so shocked? Because a lot of people assume that, I mean, you're 10-year child, like you can't remember. Oh, no. I remember losing my friends, the people I considered familiar and stuff, and having to now navigate this new terrain, how things work so differently. I'm feeling quite lost and just kind of like, what's going on here? And, you know, and thank God for like my parents and just constantly kind of like, it's okay, you know, they were trying to explain, but at 10, you're very aware of what's going on around you. At least, maybe I was just a very high, you know, super sensitive 10 years old, but I was definitely very kind of like, okay. This is new and scary, and I don't know if I'll be able to do it. So how did you transition? I mean, this is you going from 10 to a teenager to being this confident person. When did that happen? Was that in over uni or over time? So high school was better. I think just that first year was the biggest shock. And then I realized, oh, you need to make friends. Like you need to just be a bit out there. No one's almost like no one's coming to save you. I think I learned that quite quickly. Wow. And that was at 10, that's crazy. I know. That's why I think maybe I was just a very mature 10. I just kind of saw things. I was like, oh, so high school I had a game plan. I'm like, I will be with the cool girls. Like we would be cool, you know. Who's the Beyonce? Who's the Beyonce? And like I went there and I just like, you know, with primary school, everyone's made their friend. This was year 6, last like final, you know, year. True. So high school, everybody's kind of coming. So I was like, okay, everyone's coming on the same playing field. No one has it higher. So girl, what's the game plan? And I think I went into that. So yeah, mission accomplishment. That's the thing about me. I'm kind of like cutthroat in a way. That's like cutthroat in terms of quite determined. So it's like I am going to do something. I will do that thing. And that was it. It was like the mission was succeed in school and make a lot of friends. And that's how I went. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. So I mean, I don't know what you studied in university. Could you share that with me? Yeah, so I did biomedical science for my undergrad. Yes. Finished with it first. And I was like, what do I want to do with my life? You know, I think I was still quite young at that point in time. So I actually went on to do a PhD in cancer research and human genetics. So I have very much a science background, but 2020, you know, everyone know what happened in 2020. There was this big pivot of kind of like really evaluating what is important. And for me, I wanted to help people, but I also knew that travel was such a big thing in my life, even though at that point it was playing a minor role. But I wanted to, I think it was that realization that this thing could be taken away from us, which is something at one point we never thought was possible. I know that feeling of when you lose something, you realize how valuable, important it is to you. So not being able to travel was like, oh, this stuff is really important to me. Like I want to be able to always be able to do it. And yeah, so I pivoted more into exploring, traveling, using my platform, showcasing that. And over time, London to Lagos was born. Okay, so I want to be a little bit nosy, right? Because you're talking about this big pivot, right? And you're talking about, oh, thank you. We got drinks. Oh, and it's just so great. Amazing. Look Cheers, at that. Girl. Cheers. Oh, okay.
We should probably have our drinks in a more comfortable place, but after this question.
Let's do it.
So what I wanted to ask, excuse me, I couldn't resist.
That's good. Very fresh.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. I think I lost the question. All right, so what I wanted to ask is, being a bit nosy, right? A lot of people are coming to the UK, America, everywhere, Nigerians are everywhere, and Africans in general, and feeling that they have to leave their passion behind because the jobs are not available, or because the passion will not pay them, and because obviously you're going into a system where the currency change wouldn't favor you.
Absolutely.
So I can imagine a person coming and saying, oh, I just want to be doing travel content or food blogging or something. And then, you see the price of your rent, and you see. So like, is this something that a person can actually say, okay, I'm going to focus on if they just transition into moving to the country and survive on?
I think, yes. If I was to answer it in a very one sentence, yes. But obviously this is very complicated. It depends on everyone's situation. I come from a lot of privilege in terms of dual citizenship, kind of like having, I know I will never be homeless in terms of I can always go back to my father's house.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a lot of like layers of, everyone has to kind of look at the circumstances. You have a child where it's dependent on you. That's very different to if you're solo and you know that more Indomie and Gary will last me. There's just kind of like layers of the risk appetite too as well. I'm a very big believer of kind of like, life being lived in chapters, and kind of like you can do this for periods of time. You can move on to this project, but you will have to do your math. What's your lifestyle? What's the cost of per month for you? It's very different to when I made decision when I was kind of a student. It would be very different probably now. There's just so many layers that I don't think I can answer. For me, it worked in terms of considering myself as a business, chasing those opportunities, putting myself out there, willing to fail. And some people don't have that risk appetite, and I don't blame them, because it's just everyone's built differently. So is it a thing you can do? Yes, because I've seen so many people succeed in it.
Nice.
But you just have to.
I think that this people watching this are going to definitely have a mindset shift, because I'm tired of hearing Africans just do care jobs.
Oh yeah, no.
I'm like not. That is part of the reason why I was like, I'm going to hunt for people who are not doing care jobs.
Absolutely. There's so much excellence
and find out like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? There's so much excellence. That is a lived reality for a lot of people, and I don't want to
of course, and we're
acknowledge that.
We're not even putting it down.
Exactly.
But I'm just saying, like, for people who have the more of the creative vibe to them. So it's not like, oh, we're saying care jobs is the problem or whatever. But it's like, if you have a creative side or an entrepreneurial side, can you survive here in the UK? Absolutely. Nice. Okay, let's go have those drinks.
Come on, let's go.
Cheers.
Cheers. London to Lagos was honestly birthed from me trying to connect to places I consider home. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria, relocated to the UK. And it was this attempt to connect these two places. And I found there was a gap in terms of overland travel, exploring, going to new places. There just wasn't that representation as a solo female traveler doing it in kind of that adventurous way. So I made use of what I have, which was my Peugeot 107, a tiny toy car, which the world then got to know as Lumi. And going to the car and said, I was going to do this. They made this declaration, which everybody was like, you're crazy. Which is one of my favorite things to be called, by the way. I tell people all the time. Like, crazy means I'm doing something audacious enough that people cannot even comprehend. And really pushing myself out of that comfort. And I found that in those moments is where you really define your life. Not in the comfort zone, not in the known, in the unknown, in those moments where people cannot even fathom them being in that same situation and you're going for it. So yeah, it was just a combination of me being adventurous, me wanting to try something new, and I went for it. So I decided to do that trip. It took 74 days.
74 days.
Yep.
Wow.
Over 17 countries by myself. There was no crew, there was no driver, there was no navigator. I was putting on so many hats.
No. So we have to just
break it
breaks because we cannot just go through 17 countries like it's a breeze. So when you think about the first 10 days.
Yes.
When you go back in time, what was that like? Was that
It was
scary?
probably the easiest ones because I was going through
Easiest?
Europe at that point. So I left the UK, went through France, then Spain. So that took about 10 days, kind of roughly. Maybe
So what
less.
happened the next 10?
Then I go into Morocco, then technically you're in the Africa, well, not technically, you are in the African continent.
Yeah.
And it just became a little bit harder in terms of the borders, in terms of, it became warmer. I left, at that point it was quite cold when I left the UK, but it was a bit hotter. Just the realization hitting, I think that adrenaline I had at the beginning was starting to mellow down. And it was like, oh, my God, I am doing this. And I get the global attention that came with it. There was this kind of like skyrocketing of my followership and just new faces, new eyeballs that was just getting to know me for this. And obviously everybody had an opinion, and it was a bit overwhelming for one person to just kind of like manage. But I think I just held on to that vision of why I was doing what I was doing.
Yeah.
And that really propelled it of like, you know what? I'm just going to keep going.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask, because, human beings were quite skeptical. Someone will be like, yeah, but there's probably someone like behind the scenes who's not showing. What's this like you through and through?
I don't know how else to prove it.
Hotel, driving, everything.
Every single thing was me.
No single
There was
help.
no, on the trip, there was absolutely no, there was background scenes in terms of like, let's say like for me, videos, I had like an editing team and stuff like that. But on the journey itself, remember I converted the car, so I actually had like a bed and like, in the car. So I was like, almost like camper van kind of vibe, sleeping under the stars, middle of nowhere, sometimes scary, sometimes in awe of like, this is the world that we live in, and just having this adventure in me. So there was no help. There was literally just me, myself, and God.
That is so audacious. You just said sometimes scary, and I was going to ask that next. Like, weren't you scared? I mean, there's already the whole traveling alone as a female, even to any country. Let's talk about 17 as alone, as a female, as the first Black woman, as the first African woman, as the first Nigerian woman. Oh my gosh, girl, like you need like 15 awards. But anyway, what was the point where you were like, why did I do this? Was there like a scary point like that?
There were several, from the small bits of me in the car and just hearing noises like someone's about to break in the car. It ended up being just wild dogs, just scratching on my tires. But at that point, sheer panic, you wake up in almost like a sweat, like what was going on in that moment, and you're again by yourself. There were borders whereby, for example, in Liberia, I had to sleep at the border for 2 days because they just wouldn't let me in, and just trying to navigate that and get international kind of like, help.
Was it Liberia? You said that they were very thorough with the search.
Oh no, that was the Gambia. They were cute. They were like spraying my perfume. I was like, it's perfume. They're not hiding anything. They're super, because it's such a small country, so they're really protective of it, the Gambia, but not in a very hostile way. There was the car accident, where I totally, the risk of driving is, you could be in a car accident and then your life is at balance at that point in time. So there were definitely moments. But I think loneliness is something I also dealt with, even though I was so on social media and there was a lot of online. In the day to day, you're almost saying goodbye as quickly as you're saying hello, so there's just constant movements that you just have to adapt so quickly. And as mentally, you do need to have that strength and resilience,
and funding.
And funding.
Girl, like, were you surviving?
I don't think people
on the
realize
manna from God
how expensive, expedition like this cost. Is not. Travel is not cheap. I've always made that clear. You never say you're going to travel for free. There's a hidden cost there. But that is why the 1 year of planning, that's why I customized my cars with sleeping it cost down on cost of hotels. So there were intentional steps I took in place to minimize costs, but still didn't make it cheap. But again, that is a memory or something that you couldn't even put a price tag on it right now. The things I've gone on to do after London to Lagos, just the doors is opened. I feel was a worthwhile investment. I'm not complaining.
So let's talk about the car accident in Côte d'Ivoire. What happened?
Packed truck, not the best lighting on the roads. Usually when there's like a breakdown of a truck or car, they leave, if they don't have the red triangle to one another car, they leave like leaves a few meters away from the truck. But that was not the case. So the best way to explain to people when I try to is like, I was driving 1 minute, I wasn't the next. And it was like airbags on, lanterns coming from someone shaking me in French and saying, are you okay in French? And me just being so lost in that moment. And in that moment, I think there was a lot of layering. The first was the fact that, I was so close to the finish line. I'm in a foreign land by myself it was, am I going to survive this? So there was just a lot of layering of, I have said and declared this. There's a lot of people that is almost holding on to the hope as much as I am. Young girls, women all over the world. I get messages, from schools like, we've ditched our curriculum. We're just watching your show, your travel show, or you get things.
We are watching you
literally
for education.
like educational purposes. We're just going to Pelumi's page. You get a message from a 70-year-old woman said, I turned 70 and at a lot of points in my life, I was told I couldn't do this thing. Now, watching your journey, I feel like I can start to live. Like, messages like that, you just really uphold you and you're just like, I cannot afford to let these people down. I couldn't afford to let myself down. Let's start from there. And then I then knew the pressure of there's so many people that also want me
How are
to
your
get
parents
this way.
taking this?
Oh my God, my dad said this in an interview. It was like, for 74 days, this was entertainment to the world. Like, this was Big Brother house, cruise. For them, it was torture because they were just, their baby girl is on the road and anything could happen, So it wasn't fun and games.
Keep calling.
Oh yeah, every single day. As long as there was signal and anything, there was at least, where are you? What's the emergency
Send
contact?
the postcode.
Where's the send your live location? So they were always on me. They kind of had that relation, and I had like an air tag that could track and stuff like that. So we really put some security measures in place. I was in like live posting. There was just a lot of things that I just, because again I was doing this solo, I just had to protect myself in that way. Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk about the finish line, homecoming.
Yes.
When you entered Nigeria, where did you even land?
So I was coming in from using the semi-border, so from Benin into Nigeria. And the meeting point or the celebration point that we've announced was meant to be University of Lagos. So I was just like, okay, I'll cross the border and I will drive this, I think another 2 hours into Lagos, into University of Lagos. It was a different ballgame. Like it was, I got there and the best way to describe it was like a carnival. Whoa. There was vibrant and people in costumes and drums and masquerade. And in the Lagos state government really celebrated me. There was just that pride that our citizens have gone to do this big, and on a global stage, it really gave that representation of Nigerians celebrate their own. There's a lot of people left on the comment like, it was my country, nobody will say anything. Like, honestly, we really put that narrative out there so boldly that we are advocates of, not just by mouth, like, youth empowerment. We really push for it. So that's something I'll give to His Excellency. There's just so much.
How did you feel?
It was it's a euphoria I don't think I'll ever be able to experience again. It's kind of like in that kind of manner. It was just so, like, I could have an idea, do it, get this, And I think it was just because I wasn't doing it for the reward. I wasn't trying to break a world record. There was no expectation. So everything just felt like a gift that was just given to me, without asking for it or wanting or demanding of it. So that was how it felt. It was amazing. I was emotional when I saw my dad. I said, I was a daddy girl. There were tears.
Oh, daddy came.
Oh yeah, it was at the border. Girl, his baby girl, it was like right at the border. We had our embrace, there were pictures, and then we had the escort that just kind of like, 10-man car that just took us all the way to, but it was absolutely
that is something you're going to tell your generations. They're
going
to be talking about you in the whole book. Like, let's talk about great grandma Pelumi.
As a point, they actually just kind of like published a book on that. It's just kind of like a coffee table book that's super colorful, really shows the West African continent. And that's more things I'm really focused on in terms of West Africa and really celebrating, the continent as a whole. Like, we always saying that the narrative is not correct, but it's because we don't put our narrative out there. So that's one of the things. So recently I just launched my travel show that, it's called One Weekend. And it's almost like an itinerary that you can follow. This was covering the Gambia and Sierra Leone. But the goal is to be able to roll it out to all of the Fit for African countries and say, if you were to visit, number one, we are not a country, we're a continent. So if you're able to visit this part, because it icks me, I'm going to Africa, where? Like, you don't say that for Europe, but, where exactly are you going to? If you take that, my travel show, you can go exploring. So the feedback I've had from international kind of like people coming in that, oh my God, you've just put Gambia on my bucket list, or you just put Sierra Leone on my bucket list, or even the locals themselves saying, I never even knew that we had this here. Okay. So the idea of really just showcasing travel in a very accessible way and putting a narrative out there, things to do, what the joy, because I really noticed that when we're traveling, and I got to Yamoussoukro, which has the biggest balistical in Ivory Coast, and the biggest balistical. And people were like, is this in Africa? I was like, yes. Like, we have so much, things to showcase.
Natural resources.
Places to do, you know. But that is just not the narrative that is being pushed out there. You hear poverty, you hear kidnapping, you hear corruption. And now it's time to change and show that other side of the coin.
Wow.
And that's one of my life missions, to just push it out there as much as I
Super
can.
patriotic.
Oh, absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I can imagine that after that, the reaction has just been massive. Brands jumping on board. I'm sure that's probably why part of the reasons why the show was started, right? So how was that reaction? And then where are you now on that journey?
I think you're so right. There's definitely, I tell people, big risk equals big rewards. You know, if you play live mediocrity, you get mediocre rewards. And that difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary is the extra effort. So what I've seen is that there's that connectivity, storytelling that brands and stuff want to connect with. They want to tap into my audience who are also excited about travel and showcasing. So one of the brands I actually went up working with is Peugeot, the same car brand I use. They approached
full circle.
It's full circle moment, a global brand that, you know, just allowed me to express. So we actually did a road trip from London to Scotland using the electric vehicle, which was so cool to try something different. And you are right, in terms of the travel show, it was sponsored by Africell, which is a telecom company. So again, working with a very kind of like international brand and just saying that you can do one thing and, you know, be creating in this, quote, small space, and that could be leveraged in other ways. In 2025, continue to do that in terms of I want to do a podcast set in a car.
Hey!
So I really want that kind of like.
Are you going to drive your guests across all the country?
I will take them from point A to point B. And really see that.
Carry their passports just in case.
Just in case we see a border, like, oops, let's get in there. I really wanted to also highlight other people doing excellent things. You know, the same way you do on this podcast is like really like there's so much stories and people need to see. I know the power of representation. People seeing and hearing someone else's story and be like, I can connect to this deeply. I would love to hit the goal of 100 countries. It's just something that's been there. Antarctica, I mentioned to you as well. I would love to visit. So there's just so many things and just giving back. I feel like, you know, that helping, I wanted to be, you know, back when I was growing up, helping people. I just do it in very different ways now, using my platform to be like, you know what?
To inspire.
Just look at me. I am a regular ass girl that has gone to the incredible thing just by sheer audacity and just kind of determination. Like, you honestly, I'll tell people, if nobody has called you crazy this year, you're playing life too safe. You need to be so audacious about your dream. You need to be crazy. Like, if your life makes sense to people, it's not it. It needs to, like, when they say something and you're like, it doesn't make sense to me, good. You are on the right track. And I think we live in this world that just constantly forces us to try to be like other people or follow the safe path. But it doesn't work. Every person that's changed record, that's, you know, breaking the status quo, they've gone after those audacious pathway that's unconventional. So that's something I'll definitely put out there to just go after.
I'm looking forward to seeing everything you're going to do. My very last question is, what's your relationship like with God?
It's everything. It's everything. If anybody say, what's that secret sauce? That's it. You know, I'm the bearer of my name, Pelumi, which means God is with me. There's this strength that I know that I am never doing anything by myself. Everything, every inspiration, every audacity, everything is like, I have that backing. I have that.
So there's a strong personal relationship.
Very, very strong. It's this, you know, there's self-reliant and there's kind of like, there's the person that made the whole universe that I'm moving through, and he's never failed before and he's not going to start now. So there's deep reference for him. Shout out to my parents for that upbringing, again, that solid foundation. My dad's a pastor, so there was that very much solid foundation. I don't get choice, and I'm glad I didn't get a choice, because it's like there's no life without God. Honestly, there isn't.
Oh my gosh, that's such a beautiful way to end this interview. I don't know, I think I was having a great time.
I don't want it to end.
I feel like I traveled to all these countries with you.
Yes.
And I mean, I don't think I'm going to go to Antarctica, but I'm rooting for you.
Come on, girl.
Be that
I'll make sure I'll send link. I'll say book. Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, well, that would be nice. I mean, you can have like a whole Pelumi squad and everyone will follow you.
That would be so cool.
Great.
Hey, never know.
But thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Guys, as I'm talking to you, Pelumi landed yesterday night. She came, she showed up. Real, like that's so real for me.
What you're building, this space is so needed. People need to hear this story, and I'm so grateful for you to have me on here.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Can I get a
Aw.
I appreciate you.
All right. Guys, see you later. Don't forget to
Take
like,
care.
subscribe, share to a friend, inspire someone,
Yes,
basically. We're not
absolutely.
doing this just to be chatting with ourselves,
Yes,
right?
so-
We want to share that the narratives can be different. And this is the global edition of the Open Up podcast. In case you have forgotten my name is Amanda Dara. And this is Pelumi Nubi.
Thank you.
And we are here in London. And Pelumi has just shared her story and mind blown, but don't take my word for it. Drop a comment. Let me see what you have to say. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
The Open Up Podcast Season 3 Global Edition is brought to you by Credit Direct.